Hey everyone, Angel Ram back with a new YouTube video here on the YouTube channel, the Angel Ram channel. Um, Today I'm doing a tier list, and the first one on this channel actually, I did a few different ones on the main channel, Bros Community Gaming one, and I haven't done one here, and I figured why not start off with one where I figured I should have done on the other channel, but it's been quite a bit, so now I'm doing it here. A FNAF tier list. I know this has been like done multiple times. Very original video idea here. But I've been wanting to do it, and mainly because I've had three FNAF games on my back catalog that I never fully beat, and and within like the last 2 weeks I beat um FNAF 4, Pistol Location, and Into the Pit, um, which is the book game. So here I am now, gonna be ranking them. The majority of them. I played the majority of the FNAF games up till probably the latest game that I haven't played was Secret of the Mimic and um VR2. That's because I don't really our VR headset doesn't have that much space, so I already have VR one. But yeah, I'm gonna be ranking most of them. Um, this is a weird tier list that I found, so I'm gonna be ranking them as a FNAF fan who's been here since mainly probably like late FNAF 2, early FNAF 3 days. I've heard about it since FNAF 1, but I wasn't really into it till like 2 or 3. So I've been here, and I've basically been watching people played it myself, and yeah. So let's get into it. So here are the tiers here. I'm gonna rename each who didn't play. I didn't play every single game. In fact, might as well put them right now. So I played all. So these are some weird ones. Like they include like every version. It says 1, 2, 3, the the joke FNAF 3, the joke FNAF 4, all this stuff. So I didn't play the joke FNAF 3, so I didn't do that one. Didn't play the joke sister location, the joke custom night. I actually didn't play the Dreadbird DLC, so I didn't play the weird Freddy in Space or the at least always through the Map Pass live stream, so I didn't play whatever this is. I guess this is a YouTube game. Uh, This is weird because it shows the movie but something else. It says Survival Crew. Um I'll count this as the movie though, so let's just leave it here. Or no, this is Survival Crew. What the heck is that? I didn't play Secret of the Mimic yet. I didn't play Five Nights VR2. Not. I guess this is Freddy in Space 3. I didn't even know there was a third one. But we're gonna count this as the movie because the movie's there. And Five Nights at Labs is not even officially out yet, so I'm not sure why that's there. So yeah, these are the games I'm gonna be rating, which are basically the most of them. These are all jokes. This is DLC. These are kind of jokey games. I guess these two are kind of fair, not so, like I should have played, but and these I'd never even heard of this one, and this is not even out. I don't know why it's here, but yeah. So for FNAF one, here's my thing with FNAF one. FNAF one is obviously where it started. The very first FNAF game. Uh, the iconic characters, everything about this game is basically iconic now. So it's pretty much. I feel like I can't give it a terrible score, but I won't lie. It is kind of hard at times, gameplay wise. Towards the end, Freddy basically, I guess, feel like to this day doesn't have a very solid strategy to deal with. Bonnie and Chica, you know how to deal with them. Foxy, Golden Freddy jumps here. I feel like I kind of have to put FNAF 1 high in terms of iconicity, and basically without FNAF 1, I don't think Scott would have even done the rest of the games or would have done any games at all. I think FNAF 1 was his last chance at making games, from what I remember. So yeah, FNAF 1, personally, is maybe like a B in terms of gameplay and all that stuff, and like personal bias, but I think we have to put FNAF 1 kind of high. FNAF 1 for me is probably like, I'll put it at A. I don't think it's S because, again, it's not the most funnest FNAF game. Um, there's some BSy sort of parts later in later stuff, but it's the most iconic one out of the whole series. Introduces everything and all that good stuff. So yeah, FNAF 1 got to go an A. I think that's fair. I think not putting an S is fine. FNAF 2 though is an S. Main reason is well, I guess FNAF 2 I feel like I have a bit more nostalgia for. FNAF 1 is I've seen quite a bit over the years, you know, that's the first FNAF game and stuff, but FNAF 2 I think is my favorite. I think. Or there's another one or two that I think compete, but I think FNAF 2 is pretty iconic. Um, as well, but also just favorite. I think it has the best roster. Um, the concept of the Withers is really cool. They're pretty scary looking. Um, the gameplay is a bit more straightforward. I think Foxy's the only main one that's kind of like a little weird to deal with. I think the rest is kind of hard, especially like dealing with Withers to like put your mask on really quick and stuff. But I think in terms of characters, aesthetics, gameplay, I think FNAF 2 is just the better FNAF 1, the cooler FNAF 1. I think no wait, I was gonna say I think it introduced Custom Night, but if it's been there since the first, so yeah, I think personally FNAF 2 just got is the peak FNAF, well, sort of peak FNAF, and yeah, I think I don't really have anything else like that I have that hasn't been said already about FNAF 2. I think it is the best Five Nights game, and yeah, let's move on to FNAF 3 though. So my thing with FNAF 3 is that it is visually it's a very cool game. I think in terms of the map, and I think it looks very cool. The attraction, the horror attraction, uh, it does look pretty sick. Springtrap's very cool and become an iconic, not just an iconic FNAF character, but just a video game character. Got put into Dead by Daylight. But I think in terms of like gameplay stuff, well, the gameplay is pretty interesting as well with the whole thing. It is kind of annoying sometimes, but if there's only one animatronic coming after you, and Springtrap's not that hard to deal with. It's actually a very easy game. I think out of all the FNAF games, I've beaten three the quickest, and another one which I'll talk about in a bit. The FNAF 3 it's a pretty easy FNAF game. The Phantoms are a cool concept. They're not actually the toys, which is funny, because all the Phantoms are well, Phantom Mangle found Phantom BB, yeah, but Foxy, Chica, and Freddy are all I think Phantom Freddy is like Wither Freddy, but Phantom Chica, Phantom Foxy, Phantom Mangle, Phantom BB, Puppet. Um, they can't kill you. They just kind of mess up your systems. Again, Springtrap's the only one who's actually going after you. And I think this is where a lot of I think this one has the better mini games, secret mini games than FNAF 2. Uh, so that's that. I think there's multiple endings as well. Like this is a pretty cool FNAF game in terms of lore and design and all that stuff. But in terms of gameplay, it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy FNAF game. At least for me, I felt it was pretty easy. So, with that being said, I think FNAF 3. I think it's aesthetically better than like FNAF 1, but gameplay and everything else might be. It's pretty. We'll put FNAF 3 in a B. Now I think it's a. I think we'll move this one down. FNAF 1 is still goated, but I think FNAF 3 is cooler aesthetically and lore-wise than FNAF. Nah, actually no, that don't feel right. That doesn't feel right. We'll put FNAF 1 as well, but we'll put them both in A tier. FNAF 4. We'll just not rate FNAF 4 whole. We'll just rate FNAF 4 as a whole. So because actually, beat FNAF 4. FNAF 4 is pretty crazy because it is a complete switch from typical FNAF games going into 4. Because instead of the location-based games, where you're at a pizzeria or some business, now you're at your own home. Well, maybe not your own home in terms of lore, but you know, stuff like that. But I think FNAF 4 not only is a very cool game in terms of the characters, the lore is pretty interesting. I think FNAF 3's lore is a bit more interesting, just to me personally, but FNAF 4 is still pretty cool. There's the iconic Bite of 87 meme, which, that's pretty funny. And I think FNAF 4, in terms of gameplay, is the scariest FNAF game, and just a very scary horror game in general, because you literally have to. It's the only FNAF game where I think, first off, I had to, and in general, you have to put your headphones on because, like, you had to listen to stuff. Jump scares are super loud. Animatronics are scarier. Um, the ambiance I feel like is way more scary. It's like FNAF 4 is actually a very scary game. It's more scarier than most Resident Evil games, to be honest. But like FNAF 4 is a like pretty scary game. Aesthetic, with the whole design, characters, lore, gameplay. I think FNAF 4 is pretty goated, man. As much as I didn't like playing it because it was terrifying and kind of hard, I would probably put. Actually, I'm gonna rearrange the list a bit more now that I'm thinking about. I put it in A, but I think it's better than these two, so I'll put like that, like FNAF 2 S, FNAF 4A, and then these two on the same level. So yeah, the next one is well, this is a Halloween update, so and this is the entirety of FNAF World. Um, FNAF World, man, so overhated. I feel like um, it's genuinely a very fun RPG. I was talking about it with my brother, younger brother, that I was thinking about doing a FNAF, like, what is it? Not a randomizer, but like a Nuzlocke, like how they do with Pokemon. FNAF World and streaming it on Twitch, like I've been playing someone recently. And playing it because it's just very fun. A very cool cast of animatronics. It's just a generally fun game. The lore is pretty. It's not the best. Like, it's not my favorite in terms of what they add and what they include and stuff. But I think it's still pretty somewhat interesting. Especially going into the Halloween update. Some pretty cool stuff. And yeah, I just think FNAF World is a bit overhated. I know I think Scott said he really hated FNAF World. And I think FNAF World you can only play on Game Jolt. You can't even play on Steam or anywhere else. So it's pretty kind of hard to find if you don't know if you don't know FNAF games. But yeah, FNAF World's a very fun game, honestly. I replayed it a few times, not just for that YouTube series on the main channel, but just in general. It's okay, man. Matter of fact, this might be a little bit of a hot World for me, I guess, personally. It's going in S. It's a really fun game, and it may not have anything to do with, in terms of, but FNAF has been historically with the horror stuff and all that. It's still a really fun spin-off kind of game, and I really mess with Five Nights World. Honestly, it's pretty cool. And if you're a FNAF fan, have the FNAF World, like, you should. I don't see why it's hated. I can kind of see why, but I don't think it deserves hate. But now we have FNAF 5, or FNAF Sister Location. Beat this one as well. Actually, beat FNAF. I think it was last week I beat Sister Location, and then the beginning of this week I beat FNAF 4. So I was going back to back on FNAF games just to clear off some of my games that haven't started yet. And I figured, I'll just do the FNAF 4, FNAF Sister Location, and Into the Pit. So that's what I did. But Sister Location is pretty interesting. FNAF World is already a pretty big switch up, and I'd even teased Sister Location with Funtime Foxy, and then FNAF 4 also was a big switch up from the main. Like, each game kind of has this bit of a linear design, or like of what FNAF games are. They're going into 1, then 2 is pretty similar. Then 3's be different. Like, they're all kind of different in their own ways, but I think Sister Location's the most different. Mainly because it's not a traditional FNAF game where you're checking the lights, checking cams and stuff. At least not for the majority of it. If you find, the secret custom night and stuff, then it's back to basics, but still different for the majority of the game. I remember the teasers and stuff, and the trailer and all that stuff for Sister Location. It was pretty cool. Just looking back on that stuff. Back to the actual game, it's decently fun. Night 4 is like this. There's like this thing where you have to shake off mini arenas from like you're in a suit. It's kind of spoilery, so this is like if you play now Night 4 of Sister Location, you probably know what I'm talking about. But like that's like the worst thing. That's probably like the worst gimmicky level in a FNAF game. Period. Like it was so miserable. It took me like a while to beat that level. Even after watching like tips and stuff on YouTube, like between deaths, it still didn't help. So yeah, but it's actually a pretty short FNAF game, honestly. I feel like it feels kind of short. Um, because with other FNAF games, there's timed nights and stuff. Some of the stuff is cool. I think it is a top 3 scariest FNAF games. Maybe like third next to a different game. But yeah, uh, lore is pretty interesting because it's pretty much different. You're kind of learning about each of Purple Guy's kids. You know, FNAF 4 we had the crying child and the older brother. Here we're learning about the daughter and baby, which is pretty relevant going into the next series of games. But yeah, I think Sister Location is pretty cool in terms of lore, character designs, gameplay, and aesthetics. It's not the coolest. I think Sister Location as a location is kind of boring. But everything else, I think it's like a let's see. We'll put Sister Location in C. Because I definitely do like the other 2 games more. And I don't feel like it's bad. No. I don't. It's like a C plus, B minus, if I have to be specific. But yeah, I think that's fine for it. The next game is FNAF 6 or Pizza Sim. Pizza Sim. It's interesting because first of all, did play it on the channel, but also because Pizza Sim feels a lot. If you just play it casually, Pizza Sim is pretty kind of different from the other games in terms of like, well, obviously the main gameplay where you're running a pizzeria and you have to make sure you don't get lawsuits and stuff. But if you like kind of don't really give it much thought, it doesn't really have that much lore. Like you have to be like obviously each night you get to salvage animatronic, and we're pretty familiar with Scrap Baby, Scrap Trap, and Molten Freddy, which is entered. But yeah, it's kind of like the interesting part is like the lore is a bit more. You have to dig deeper into it, and it's basically after like FNAF 3, the lore is actually, I guess, more prevalent, and actually starting to get interesting. And FNAF 6 is pretty interesting because at least if you watch like game theory videos or MatPat, or if you actually decided to pay attention and get all the secrets, it's actually pretty interesting. Lore-wise, I think it's better than a few of the previous titles. Gameplay-wise, it's pretty funny. You get to make your own pizzeria, and there is like a night sort of traditional FNAF game where each night you have to order stuff for your company while checking the vents to make sure you don't die. But it's kind of very basic. Like it's not that hard. It's kind of annoying. Like that kind of sequence. Honestly, it's really like that mini game in FNAF Sister Location where you have to restore the power while looking at Funtime Freddy and making sure he's at bay. That little thing is basically the entirety of like the night shift in that game in Pizza Sim. So it's not the most engaging, it's literally a business. It's literally a pizza simulator, or a FNAF pizza simulator, where you're running a crappy company, make sure things will happen, you know. But yeah, me personally, I think it's actually gonna stay in the tier I left it. I think it's gonna stay in C tier. Like, yeah, or I think it's like a bit better than its just location. Um, I guess the gameplay is more fun. You have to run your own business. And I think the lore is very cool if you actually dig deep into it. But I don't think it's better or at the same level as FNAF 1 or 3. So there's a bit of a decline you can see. FNAF 5, FNAF 6, C. But this next game, which is basically FNAF Custom Night, Ultimate Custom Night. I actually did a video on it a few weeks ago. If you guys watched it, my strategy how to get to that office. This is basically the last of the, I guess, classic FNAF games. Because after this, the series takes a pretty dramatic step away and step forward into a new direction in terms of not only just gameplay, but it just has the story. Basically, this pretty much ends. This is like the Resident Evil 6 of FNAF games, honestly. Actually, that's a bad example. This is a very cool game. Not only is just custom nights in FNAF games pretty fun. Oh yeah, also, there is no custom night in Pizza Sim. It's just custom night. And it is the best thing, man. I think custom night might be a top one or top two. Like, I was thinking FNAF 2 is my favorite, but I think Ultimate Custom Night might be as well. Like, it's such a endless fun. It's literally just a ultimate custom, like you just do custom night. But there is some lore sprinkled in with the whole Freddy anime and Chica anime, but there's not much. There's some cool Easter eggs you can do with like Old Man C, Golden Freddy. What else? And if you do 50/20, you get all of Dee Dee's weird characters to show up. It's just endless fun for me, honestly. I played a bunch of videos. It was like the start of my YouTube, the main channel of me and Dan used to play PvZ and Ultimate Custom like quite a bit, and it's just a very fun game, man. Great. Pretty much good. The only thing I can give it a slight critique is that Custom Night has too many FNAF 6 characters. Like I know it just came out, but like there's quite a lot of other cool characters could have added. You know, some other FNAF. I know in like the originals there were supposed to be more FNAF characters, but like Scott had a bunch. But yeah, I might as well just rate it now. Looks like Custom Night is an S tier. Probably more than FNAF. Probably more than FNAF. I think Ultimate Custom Night is probably my favorite FNAF game. But the next game we have FNAF VR. I don't actually know if this is the correct timeline. Or did FNAF VR and AR come out before Security Breach? I don't know. Probably did. Now, personally, I actually quite like FNAF VR. Mainly because it's a great thing to do to a FNAF game. Like, actually, I think if I remember right, before FNAF VR came out, fans were already doing actual ports of the FNAF games in VR. And then this game came out and it just threw out the water, but you know. So FNAF VR isn't what you expect when you think of a FNAF game in VR. It has like portions of FNAF games in VR things. Like, remember there's FNAF 1, there's a FNAF 2? I think FNAF 2 is in VR in that game. 3, I don't actually remember. 4, there is. Sister Location is kind of weird because there's like a mini game where you do stuff with the characters, but I don't think there's an actual. I don't remember FNAF VR too much because it's been a while since I played, but I did play it. I did play the majority of it. And I gotta say, man, FNAF VR is just a really cool game. Visually, it's very. I think it's like the second or third scariest game in the series, personally, because you're literally up close and personal with animatronics in a VR space. Because you do get very close, and there's actually a mini game where you're supposed to repair the animatronics, kind of like this location with Baby and Funtime Freddy. But I think it's the FNAF 1 characters, so yeah. And it's a very cool game. The lore is really weird because it kind of gets into a new sort of vision where the lore of FNAF VR supposedly that FNAF VR is a game within the FNAF universe of trolling, of making tease of what they did in the past. I think. Um, the lore's not the best, honestly. There's some because basically this game gets into what would be happening in Security Breach. I think this comes up before Security Breach because I feel like Security Breach characters would appear if that was the case. That doesn't happen until FNAF VR 2. So yeah, FNAF VR. Honestly, I actually would give it an S as well. Like no joke, guys. I'm starting to reconsider my choices here. I do love FNAF 2 a lot, but I think these three are funner than FNAF 2. FNAF 2 is just an iconic FNAF game and just a really cool one. But yeah, FNAF, FNAF AR. AR is such a weird game because first off, you can't play it anymore. It shut down. It's a mobile game where you order animatronics to your location. They come after you, and you literally go on your phone. It shows up like a Pokemon Go, and you look around, try to zap the animatronic a few times, and then they disappear. It's such a weird game because first off, there's like no lore. The lore is pretty strange and almost pretty much non-existent. Um, and the gameplay is very boring, honestly. Like if at first when it first came out, I played it a bit and it was pretty cool, a little novel, little like cool thing of animatronics being in your house and trying to get them to trying to get you to destroy them. But like after like a while, you just can't do that anymore. I think it gets kind of boring after a while. They did a lot of what's it called, mobile game stuff, where they give characters skins and stuff, and a lot of them are cool. Some of them are cool. But it's funny that I see a lot of merch nowadays from FNAF. And a lot of it is from FNAF AR. Like you might guys have seen that Liberty Chica meme or merch of her. She's actually from this game, and all like the really weird skins of the characters all came from that game. And you can't even play it, and that game is kind of boring. Like actually, I don't really like FNAF AR that much. There's like no lore. Gameplay gets boring, or not boring, like repetitive or stale pretty easily. There's nothing else to do besides the minigame. The lore is pretty weird because it, again, is like getting into like book lore as well a little bit with Remnant. I think that's where the Remnant comes from as well in the books. Plus, yeah, I just really didn't strongly like FNAF AR that much. Should just leave it in there. Indeed, FNAF AR is not the best. To me at least. I played it a bit when it came out, and then later on, actually, not when it came out because I actually didn't have a phone that was compatible with FNAF AR. When I did, I played it, and then I played it for like a few weeks, and that was it. Security Breach, quite an iconic game in the new gen FNAF games. I played part of it, the first part of it on the other channel, but I beat it and ended up being it on my own because I stopped like doing videos. The funny thing about FNAF Security Breach is, for one, this is like a completely new game almost, a new series almost. It feels like a FNAF like way in the future lore wise. It introduces Gregory, which is weird because he makes it seem like at first that he's like the crying child. Then people say he's a robot. Then people say he's evil. He's a Resident Evil. It's kind of really interesting. Level of the main character is actually the only one of the only games where we actually have confirmation of who the main character is, like straight out. Because there's theories for all the other games. But Security Breach really tells you it's Gregory. So lore-wise, it's pretty weird because FNAF, the Pizza Flex is built on top of FNAF 6, and at this point, FNAF 6 is like 3 games ago. It's FNAF AR, then FNAF Custom Night, and then VR. That's like 3 games ago, basically. Alright, I don't think these games are in order of release on this tier list, but maybe that's what I'm just gonna go based off of. But yeah, FNAF Security Breach also came out, like I think 2021 or 2. I actually got it, but I couldn't play it on my old computer. I had to wait till I got this new one. Actually, probably played it like 2 years ago officially. When I can actually run it. But yeah, so for Security Breach is pretty fun actually. It's a pretty cool FNAF game. In terms of gameplay, in terms of aesthetics, characters, they're okay. Glamrock Freddy is obviously like iconic nowadays. He's the only Freddy that talks, or at least to the most human way. He's a pretty cool character. People also had theories that he was like Michael Afton or something, and like his soul was in there, like Remnant or something like that. Roxy's cool. I think she was actually introduced in Freddy in Space. So this is not her first appearance. And then Glamrock Chica is obviously a very iconic one as well. And then Monty's the new character, basically the only new character, besides like some side characters, but we never seen Monty in a FNAF game up to this point. Again, the lore's kind of weird because also they make it seem like maybe I'm not sure me trusting the lore based off like game theory and stuff like that, but I remember also people were saying that Vanessa is like a grown-up version of Elizabeth, the Crown Child's sister. I think that's what was going on, and how she's also Vanny, but also evil and glitch trap and all that. So like kind of a strange events in terms of the lore. There's like the cool thing about FNAF Security Breach that I like that there's like 5 different endings, or quite a few different endings. I don't know about 5, but there's like quite a few. So yeah, I think in terms of a FNAF game, it's kind of a big change. It's like they're trying to start off something new in a way, and I don't hate that. I remember at a point I was like, I really didn't like Security Breach because it was a completely different FNAF game, and all that stuff. But I think going back, I think Security Breach is quite just a fun game, cool game, a lot of cute references. The lore kind of is very mixed, but I think overall, I think Security Breach is not that bad. Making it. I don't think anybody thinks it's bad. I just think it kind of has mixed. B. Long story short, it's B. I think it's B. I think it's better than. C? Nah, I'll keep it in B. It's definitely a lengthy game if you get into it more than all of these combined, probably. I mean, like FNAF VR is like closer to its length-wise, but yeah. So they have the DLC for Security Breach, which is interesting, because it's the same game. It's not like Ruin is like Security Breach 2. And I kind of didn't. I only thought about Security Breach right now while I was talking about it, but I actually would give Ruin the same thing, but like a higher, because I think Ruin is actually pretty cool. What they do with the lore, and then obviously it introduces the Mimic, which is a book character. So that's weird. And then Secret of Mimic comes out, which is based off Ruin and that book. And the lore is kind of really, at least on a cliffhanger. I think there's multiple endings, but the canon one is a cliffhanger. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that one the same. So this is like the last two, which is the movie. I'm just gonna briefly talk about the movie. I did a whole video when the movie came out, FNAF 1 movie, and yeah, I'm just gonna summarize, and I'll even use one of the other games as a fit in for that for the FNAF 2 movie. But FNAF 1, I think, was a pretty decent movie. The animatronics look really great. The story is kind of weird, pretty mixed. Uh, but yet again, I guess it can't be 1-to-1 because that would just kind of be a bit boring for a movie, maybe. Um, I'm just gonna briefly give FNAF 1 movie probably a B as well. As yeah, let's just put it at B. The FNAF 1 movie is like a B, and we'll say what is what? We'll say. Look, we'll call this YouTube's random game as a FNAF 2 movie. You'll probably put it as a C. And I was actually gonna do a video in FNAF 2 after I watched it. I never did. But the thing with the FNAF 2 movie is that it did. It did. Language. God damn it. It. If you guys have watched the new Super Mario Galaxy movie, it's kind of the same thing. So, like, in terms of the story isn't as good as in the previous ones, and they kind of just throw a bunch of references everywhere. Even more so in this movie, and it becomes kind of noticeable, to the point where it's kind of cringy a little bit. Uh, there's try not to say spoilers, but there's quite a good amount of references. I guess the movie's been out for a while, so maybe you guys should have seen it already. But FNAF 2, I feel like the story isn't as good. I think the animatronics look way better. They look way cooler. Obviously, all the FNAF 2 ones, the withers look really awesome. There is some introduction of new characters that are pretty cool. There's obviously a bit more focus on the story from the previous, instead of kind of making a new importing from the games, which is okay, you know. But yeah, I just feel like there's too much like fan service and stuff like that, and the story is not as cohesive. And again, it leaves on a weird cliffhanger. I feel like the direction of the story is leading more into new gen FNAF kind of concepts rather than old, which is I think is a preferential thing, because like FNAF 1, like basically like from the, after like the OG FNAF books, not like Tales of Pizzaplex or the other series, I forgot what it was called, where Into the Pit and all those books come from. Like probably like after FNAF v Custom Night, the story is like really the from a go. I'm sorry, but like I feel like from FNAF 1 to Custom Night, the story is kind of, in terms of like powers and stuff, it's just like a bunch of killers, you know, doing all these things to kids, stuffing them into suits or souls, resonating with the animatronics, hallucinations, all that stuff. But after like Ultimate Custom Night gets like really off, like, to be honest, where we have Remnant, and all those kind of things, the glitch trap, basically, all these really interesting and weird concepts. And I think the movie kind of pulls from those interesting concepts, because the whole thing, how the puppet is treated in this game is pretty weird. Or not in this game, in this movie. Oh, you know, spoilers. Where the puppet controls Vanessa, the puppet goes into, well, the soul of the puppet like possesses people and stuff. And kind of weird because the puppet isn't aggressive in the main games. Like, there's some mini games where it implies that the puppet does stuff, but not like you know. And it's certainly a choice because at this point we have seen the puppet as in a kind of a certain light. But going back to as the movie as a whole, I'll leave it in C. I don't think it's D because again, the characters are very cool. The animatronics look great. The location looks super cool. They made FNAF 2 look cooler, honestly, a cooler location. And there's some cameos that work well that I think are cool. But again, there's too many cameos. The story isn't as good. And yeah. It is Into the Pit. I actually beat this last night. Uh, I started and beating the same night. To be honest, I actually didn't want to play Into the Pit because I feel like after maybe Security Breach, when they, I kind of, this is where my decline for in my decline of interest for these games kind of started to go down a little bit. Like after Ultimate Custom Night, I was like interested to see where they were going with VR, AR, Security Breach, and I was into those. Well, not AR, but VR and Security Breach are cool. But Into the Pit was something that didn't really interest me. That was mainly because there was going into the books and I had not read the books. And honestly, it is a cool adaptation of the books because I did watch summaries and stuff of the books. But I think Scott was saying like, oh, the books aren't canon to like the stuff, and they're like their own separate universe. But the weird thing is that it seems like he's kind of trolling because it seems like in the same like not security, yeah, was it Security Breach? Security Breach, I think, was like showing and like Ruin were kind of showing very much book parts and the movie as well. But like, I don't think the movie came out. I think the movie came out after Into the Pit came out, but like that area, that kind of thing, they were kind of like leading into the books a lot. Like the whole Mimic is a book character, so like he's saying they're not canon, but they're also canon, but they're not. They're like their own universe. And then Secret of the Mimic comes out, which is literally a story of a book character that's into the canon lore. It's kind of really weird. Like it also almost makes it seem like if it is a different universe, then it means that Security Breach isn't canon into the main story. Like it's just kind of the story gets kind of pretty so kind of convoluted for me that it kind of just doesn't really interest me. And I don't know if Into the Pit is canon either, so. But I played it last night, going back to the actual game itself. It's a decently fun game. It's a 2D, like, kind of like a beat 'em up sort of thing in terms of, like, how you play. Aesthetically, it's like in this 8-bit kind of game. It's pretty good. It doesn't look the worst. I mean, not the worst. I make it seem like it looks bad. It doesn't look bad. It's a pretty cool game, visually. Lore-wise, I think it's funny because pretty much a cool thing about these FNAF games is that these games are kind of dark in terms of story, but it might not appear so. And Into the Pit ends kind of a good ending. And I think Security Breach's canon ending isn't a good ending, or like not the best. I don't know. I guess Security Breach, but I don't think it was as what's it called, positive as Security Breach felt. But whatever. Anyways, Into the Pit I think was okay. It's definitely an interesting idea of a time traveling ball pit, and him going back and forth is pretty cool. I forgot what movie I read. Oh no, it was literally just realized that why I thought it was so familiar when I was going into the story, because it's like the FNAF 2 movie, sort of. Spoiler. I think it was like the FNAF 2 movie, where spoilers for FNAF 2 movie. I think towards the end, or I think it's FNAF 1 or 2. I forgot which one. Where Abby goes to school quite a bit, but then towards the end of the movie, she just wants to help her friends, aka I think it's the toys, So she goes back, and then she started missing school. Just keep going back, and that's basically what happens in Into the Pit. But except it's for a better, more more interesting reason in Into the Pit, because he literally goes back to see his dad. And the story is not the worst. It's pretty interesting. I just didn't think it was that dark, and it was also kind of short as well. Actually, I think I beat it within like 3 hours. So yeah, Into the Pit. Let me just rate it. I'll give it a. I think it's better than the finale. We'll leave it at C. And then these two don't count, so just throw them an F. But yeah, there's my FNAF tier list, guys. I didn't play the joke games. I didn't play Dreadbear DLC. I didn't play Ready in Space 2 or 3. I played 1 in FNAF World. I did not play this, whatever this was. I remember the map had live stream, but I forgot what it was exactly. Maybe when these two games get discounted, I'll buy them. More so FNAF VR 2. I haven't even heard of this game or this YouTube's game. But this YouTube game is our film for the FNAF 2 movie. And Final Lapse, actually very much looking forward to Final Lapse Freddy. I think that's gonna be a funny game, funny goofy game. It's like my lowest FNAF rating is AR. And then Into the Pit, FNAF 2 movie. I think looking back on these, like maybe these could be higher. Like these two BC plus B minus. And these are pretty good. This is very good, and these are the best FNAF games. So yeah, there's my tier list, guys, for the FNAF games. That's probably won't change. Yeah, this is May 1st, and I'm recording this, so hopefully I'll post this soon. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. What do you think of my tier list? What do you think of the FNAF games? But yeah, bye.